Yeah, it's same. Big time, high, big time.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, so are you flight 1 or not?
2.
How?
What? Yeah.
I want all of the higher brackets for the.
Is that how it works?
Well, always, yeah. That's
Wait,
not
really? Unless I'm.
Did you grade the bracket before?
me.
So it speaks, yeah.
No, I couldn't break it, but I like knew it was gonna be.
Oh, you disclosed to this?
Sterling and I had the same speaks and the same upwind
Really?
vibes.
Alright. Let me know when that one's good to go.
The meta-ethic is constituted of 1. Value theory. Restricted condition requires unconditional human worth. Works about 83. When rational being reason choice A. Two objects never good to say best unconditional kind can be inclination those. Unconditional worth has humanity regarded self-example of converting value that ensures and understands intrinsically value but objectively value every rational being has a clear reason to prevent them. 2. Be aggressive. You can question everything except reason. 2. Region only actions to universal reasons. Development of 6. External authority 6. Disable why we ask why desire why we ask reason convince reason for acting reason conceivable authority reason as an authority consideration value of every good. Stealing we take desire for property. Desire one reason for their properties separate reason for us violates the concept of reason. 3. Action theory. Action be divided infinite parts and only reason unifies all of these actions in row 07. I calculate I should do B to doing A means that I do A then I should A1 that I should B. This requires A1 and A2. No intention of ground is doing A1 then A2 but 1 and unless doing A1 then I'm not doing B and I should not aggregate my unity of FP phases 4 national fallacy experience can never justify ethics to Paul 21 good pleasure national fallacy for the intelligence good is the correct person when I cannot question when the triangle cannot question triangles closed painted with 3 angles of questions closed any national definition the question X is in but is it good X conducive fluctuates is it good questions of reasonable can have natural moral principles are self-evident by itself not the inference of proposition other than itself the standard is consistent with the omelette will it requires the obligation to promote economic justice where citizens can participate in practical reason regarding to 6 state liberty requires condition which says it can work in action consideration the same set of institutions secure rightfulness and a decent working condition protect versus by to have means it's only for economic justice are essential without any state poverty relief in the state is not included no political obligations yes we must let go of our assumption that states right cannot assert the rights of the individual 1 and is not gap experiences cannot generate moral laws Hume 917 848 observations considering human affairs is not connected with objects trust in new relation necessary for reason to be how it's can't be doing deduction 2 intent partial distinction agents can't be culpable for every consequence they didn't intend to occur absolute 95 to 1 consider optional feasible consequences of their probabilities is to make you guys hopelessly complicated nothing whatever we decided 3 experiences an unreliable source of ethics Shaman 14 you're being super equal even out and given manipulated your sensory experiences things you do things be different from how they seem that you can be hallucinating visual parts as being simulated you can know the world that outside your skin 4 problem induction is circular Hume 70 nature may be change of an object is attended with different effects of trust in particular past experiences arguments cited in the concept of the object relation derived from experiences and conclusions supposed future conform with the past might prove this maybe probable arguments going to encircle 6 or will skip that 1 offense the United States ought to require that workers receive a living wage 1 independence failure to require that workers receive a living wage makes it impossible for them to act upon ends they said Bowie 98 of corpus and more if humanity employs users and time each honor self-respect employees that many must have independence to achieve independence satisfaction existing wages thus corporations pay a living wage employees a living wage for us independence satisfaction desires 2 independency only an unconditional living wage enables workers to avoid being coached by the wealthy husband 4 we allow the poor becomes diverse of the panorama of dependence difficult to see a culpable of validating at the actual influence to better play to place in the hands of the state against betterment in the favor of private philanthropy cannot see how employment is goal job fails of living wage for expired independence 3 equality principle criminal laws are arbitrary because they provide the different standard for living for every person dependent on empirical conditions that are outside the will of like the location they were born living wage indexes to the cost of living which ensures a standard living requirement rather than the arbitrary number of wages 4 is coercive failure to pay living wage are exploitative and coercive offering employers a choice to starve or be impoverished that treats employees as mere beings and diminishes human agency center when a person faces a choice that considers starving and not living wage is able to see how that person meaningful choice employers the occasion of offers engaging the course of destructive mass that fails to treat the best person living wage every obligation doing anything less than we feel they respect any the employers enter themselves the person is constrained choose ends a billionaire and just wants to support and create luxury pay employers pay little treating them with instruments of probability for being harder 7 4 times 3 and 6 3 times 2 treating the dark and empiric shot 20 over 2 4 3 bit 20 percent 150 2 23 30% so just next up by search on that topic and also includes agents obviously theoretical course executed by the empirical hierarchy after accounting for all advantages negating is harder. The stagnation advantage. Wage growth and perhaps within the next year, recent national states and post-pandemic access to total 615 president against the job market society social work related job news rates 4.9% of the US growth rate. But the pre-pandemic levels wages slide downwards before equilibrium with each other. Slide on job growth and until the end of 25 countries. Slide GDP goes down. Returning to ending like 2021 by the current. Now 2021 stagnation is repeated slowly. So wage stagnation rate 22. Stagnation is the problem demand slow growth. This demand slow investment causes including labor utilization wage stagnation equality crime problem policy insufficient spending final participation rates slow productivity area. They can do insufficient demand the problem housing demographic. Next slow interventions rate of interest in robots slow recovery due to stagnant wages. Secular stagnation loss of fiscal miscalibration outweigh inflation. 2023 social low demand require low interest rates have overwhelming rate. Rivers decline lower than the say that too high no variable. More one than RGR stagnation driven by social factors that one central base. One against inflation interest rates will be low. The real rates are low. With Fed expense weak mess and no reason. Just let's turn around higher rates. Interlude think about policy once inflation is wrong. Secular stagnations and crisis accelerate, which will lock in populism proliferation trends towards extinction. Oppenheimer 21 years prior decline. Secular stagnation begins global globalization. Multipolarity nationalism. Politics becomes polar. Centralized hostage economic weakness. Also institutions become battlegrounds. World or respond with their transfer economic destruction, including independence, world with causes free access to multipolarity behind some race of conflicts and preventive wars, weakening institutions, experience coordination, policy, power fight. Security development, CC1 uses, high risk transfer, economy, and American capacity, whereas the increase in conflict, US, China, Russia, India, Japan, Korea, Germany, France, India, China, Iran, ISIS, use nukes, and loss of control on arms rates, higher labor costs, increased capital investment in automation and new technology that expand product GDP and reduce slow growth. 216 stars 11 project GDP missing 2.8 trillion. Next year, 19.9 activity 8.4 product GDP 3.2% per year. Key reason majority prices, wages, provide incentive for firms to invest in capital machinery, labor, cheap business, and higher other workers. Higher wages reduce capital, not encourage investment, reduce productivity, 1929 increase in wages, economy converted into massive reduction, region-based again. The common sense suggests that increase in wages, raise productivity, no effect on unemployment, raise income wages, a key to unlocking growth. The most robust studies includes net benefits for small businesses. Lebanon 23 small businesses now cut jobs, higher wages, easier to recruit and retain. Turnover goes down, new paper the first exam, minimum wage on small business 15 minimum. Within causing cut jobs, the average statistical multiple 30 years, 5.52 that change every business years, so price increase on no tracking goes down profits, not harm low employment among high school workers. They work less and study more, reduce your rate, add extra time. We don't want to get through each shot the target data and new RBS with the ways that they can be evenly abusive when they want to track back competing interests and force it to be about models which is best for normally that solves most office over time since model abuse adds up. Otherwise, short out proposals means that negative for power us, which the parents abuse checking abusive movies arbitrary and about that universal consensus forces judge intervention which kills engagement. I'll read another part. It's phased in, shot 21, eliminating adjustment inflation cost of living. I'll send that one and stick to the board as
Just
well.
put at the bottom of the thing.
Gotcha. I can start concept whenever. I'll do this too.
Actually, what were this? I don't know, whatever. Alright, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't say like indexicals or anything?
No.
And then the only thing that's like hidden, not in the navigation pane, is the affirming harder part?
It wasn't in the navigation. Sorry, I copied it from all. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then the one I said at the end.
Okay, the action theory thing, I don't get what this is.
Okay, the roto card basically says that an action can be divided into infinite parts, so thus consequences cannot be a reliable source of ethics.
So like
For example-
aggregation fails or what?
No, it just means that ethics cannot be a source of, or the experience cannot be a reliable source of ethics. It also means aggregation fails because you would have to account for the infinite parts of
and
actions. You want to give
sure,
an example?
you're sure this isn't indexicals, right?
Because it's
That's
named
a
roto.
different one? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
different one.
okay. The stagnation advantage, I don't really understand the Warren and the Blanchard evidence. It seems to assume like a very large amount of stagnation. If we win,
There is a large amount of stagnation now.
Yes,
This is
okay,
based
so
on
if we
Federal
win-
Reserve cut interest rates.
if we win, productivity high now, economy not stagnating, this goes away.
This relies on secular stagnation, yes, but it
Okay.
also makes an
Yes.
argument about
The Oppenheimer evidence says things like aging populations and things like,
where it says that it's not
global-
due to demographics, cannot assume.
no, I
that-
understand, but the impact card you read
Yes,
said, quote, a combination of aging populations, accelerating technology, and global nationalism make growth decline very difficult to reverse. What do you think?
a few things. The external alternative causes are caused by secular stagnation. That's the biggest accelerant. The card says that. Secondly,
Okay,
the
how do
rate
you solve
evidence says
populations aging?
the rate evidence says that it's a non-concern because right now the most important concern is stagnating economies.
That does not answer the question.
The rate
but,
evidence
okay.
says that those alternative
The
causes are
impact,
irrelevant.
like, okay, is it correct to characterize the impact as being about like relative American decline?
The impact is about freedom, but yeah, it's No, it's not
on
relative to
stagnation.
American decline, because Oppenheimer evidence also makes
Quote,
a claim.
US power has declined
Hold on,
relative to other
hold on.
states, like what?
The next part of the card says it increases toxic competition, so even if China
Right,
and US
after
are in
American
decline,
growth declines. Okay, where have you read
It
evidence
increases
that
toxic-
China's economy is not stagnating, Russia's economy is not stagnating, like any of these?
it's irrelevant. Well, one, the Ray
US
analysis
power
evidence
decline
is about-
relative to other
the
states,
Ray
especially
analysis
China,
evidence is
like.
specific to the United States. Secondly, this evidence
No,
talks
I
about-
understand stagnation is happening in the United States, but your impact that you read is about like
Do you want me
other
to finish my
states.
answer? The Oppenheimer evidence says that the relative decline is not the biggest factor. It is toxic competition between China and
You
Russia
skipped
and a polarized
Darwinian's one,
economy.
right?
What?
You skipped the Darwinian's one.
Yes.
Induction circular, how is deduction not equally circular?
Induction circular because it relies on past experiences to verify
No,
actions.
why is deduction not also circular?
Deduction solves this. It's, well, definitionally not circular. You can,
Why?
practical reason is the ability to set and pursue ends. You could say that you want to do something that's not circular, does not rely on past deduction to do so. And even if it does, deduction in itself is good because you do not rely on external factors to justify it.
Okay, it's. It's 8 and then, oh, actually, I'm gonna do the case. Wait, sorry, yeah, I'll do the case first, so Kant and then stagnation. Actually, yeah, I'm very sorry, Kant's advantage and then Adolf and then stagnation advantage. And then I'll say it. Alright, I just sent it. I don't need the order. I need it. Alright, everyone good? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. No one or three, otherwise gonna blow 5 seconds of so much traction. Substance affirming is not hard to ask it. Infinite price and stress. The stats are just skewed because people cut shitty ass course or conclude extinction always do. Course of 2 actions and consequences do not equal consequences not in no theory. Try to take care of cases in which the consequences to apply for us to wash your hands of them. Or cases where action go wrong that the challenge not to be action we tend to do are intentionally the values by read versus wrong wanting to be large reason first week so it's a prerequisite 2 endpoint is usual because the use reason to maximize pressure 3 it leads to them you can question why you should reason action theory is wrong aggregation is solved by death count and will be answered by the question below no not to capacity 1 everything above proves that something gives us pleasure it is good 2 phenomenal introspecting solves will be below 3 death is bad outweighs it earlier for because it is the worst restriction on freedom no is all gap 1 usual solves we ought to take actions that maximize pleasure 2 it links to them just because you're rational to something we should be 3 pleasure is good even if relying on our experiences so has more normative importance our celio was wrong was answered but we would stop calculating consequences at the point of extinction it is that's this reason because we have discovered threats that would cause extinction before they've happened no evil demon 1 it links to them because how do they know they're not being controlled by an evil demon 2 pleasure or pain are able to be felt which would be below 3 is that the verb should be undone to prove the external world is not variable not and also that it is deduction is not circular 1 if we dropped a pen it would fall 2 deduction is also circular you only know things like 2 plus 2 equals 4 just because someone told you and Kant fails 1 speaking situation people can choose out of obligations and which means it never holds up in anyone accountable 2 tailoring objection you can tailor a maxim to be particular to the point where every maxim is permissible 3 cannot wait violations minimal rights violations are considered just as bad as murder under Kant even though 1 is clearly worse is also Nazi objection means that if a Nazi shows up at your door and asks if you're hiding a Jew you'd have to say yes which results in genocide intents are unverifiable and impossible to determine intent in the context of the state it's also genocidal justifies the elimination of disabled individuals because they are rational agents which is reason to reject the team even if they only go for you till now now first off standard is consistency with non and chosen inheritance and 1 pushing equal it is everyone good pain and promotion of reaction not for the reason position Push your pen about would be no reason to ask for heading was not paying so possible 2 actors staff governance and must use util because they don't have intention and are constantly doing with trade-offs to reject all prior reasoning trust today if you're going to experience of reference humans not knowledge purpose and no knowledge the part of and sensory experience part the card at sensory experience and 4 extinction outweighs and finale for the consequences explains painful that's 5 no intent 4 distinction 7% consequences of being responsibility of determining moral significant consideration we need to say action global participation undertaken cannot have hand in any person existing governance in social relationship pursuits interests, but how has no reason for conflict like individual 6 degrees. A promise breaking promise to take a dying person to the hospital is worse than breaking a promise to meet someone from line to 7 phenomenal introspection is accurate. And also, 20 feels like the person we know, measure we don't know, we have no way of telling the degenerative to me, rational, unemployed, what it all. Runs out of this way as painful, he does not know he is in pain, no such argument exists on the card, and he exists for job call, and that's disproven by all. But then it says next off the 50 states, to require the workers equal wage. It's also complete mental 15 year effect of clearly identified in the articles US USA for the 50 states US Title 20 for the Supreme Law of the land next off the United States should require the workers to receive the living wage subject to judicial sunset clause and reviews with the possibility of renewal alteration termination every 25 years. Social case and most of the law again takes 14 sentences. Law actions apply efficiently court clear and under law more principles and infant rule of law and self court to really process how the court visit the issue law bring law where all the view of us improve the public on edge as the actors in compliance with government policies and restorative policies may civil principle extinction restoration money use governments the laws made for the US to the world of how we get silver genocide for the land for breakdown of the law of many comments when we have healthy revolution over freezing the decision of refugees the largest security over rule of law super and committed to administrative judiciary the kind of competes one solve government bond to resolve means the question no reason basic question for settlement to all question is not susceptible for litigation 2 opportunity to know day osmina should 3 should summers 94 should mean sound law is really effective next off. The United States should weaken its intellectual property rights, potentially increase investment in infrastructure, require that workers determine their own living wage value and pay that living wage value to workers based on what they say. Legally barred Donald J. from holding office, legally barred complicators from holding public office. It's all stagnation. Their evidence has infrastructure investment is sufficient to solve inserted for reference. And the third plank solves con. Now, next off, rate cuts and solve now read 1024 inflation goal definition CPI. How much was it reaching 2% how about 4 depending on division Fed? We could again cut rates in November, run cut out November. The plan fuels inflation, bond cost push, anyway, coal inflation, inflation, 2020 increase in wage increase, price increase, demand increase, wages under which increase, labor cost cut, amount of production decrease, price increase, demand decrease, supply increase, cost decrease, pushing con compensate with wage increases. It's statistically significant pressures in model 24 for rental wage estimate podcast 171% all about complete. Cost estimate is however the studies account for competition market hard. In competition 2, workers will continue to wait for increased wages when there are 19 cents cost of the efficient workers. The increase in under 20.5%. This is a serious wage pressure. Stopping inflation is impossible. 2020. Stopping inflation is one workers. Unnecessarily angry protest wage negotiations turn into a free fall. Politicians and mobility prices. And wages continue to spiral. A one-time hike links the living wage is 25 an hour. That's for 20 analysis. The living wage for necessity from the living wage is 25 with 2 price. The plan raised by 250%. And then half must specify how much the living wage is. Anything else less than that particularly clarifying the one respected discipline switch. The source cash that impacts 70 million workers compared to 24. The 69 million less than the 25 per hour extinction rates. 22% of the world's orders cost. Anyone who is the world war adoption. Revolution, inclusion, chemical care, environmental protest, world passion, efficient good. Anyone looking to hard systems intensify defense president, restraint, treated by inflation, economic medical done China. Expand Russia, spending conflict Iran next off. Harris wins now and search hard corners. 1024, the plan is responsible to 19 minimum wage, economic fiscal support. Wilson represents our world as economic plan world. Raising wage costs 1.3 million, 37% for policy implement would fall extinction fever 24 Trump 2.0 less than 2% consultancy from the gas and formers and over here 20 amid doors in Europe at Taiwan SES surrounded by the prices of 1 million world translation Trump which international trade pyramid with strengths around trust terms London extraordinary activity power vacuum now the stagnation invaders no automation one time frame increased tech investment take decades 2 illogical if A was so useful businesses would already be adopting it 3 there's only reasons placing orders to cost of placing at the disclosed salt Hazen NL 24 Europe US just automation obviously one of the features of the world's many dividends for working with the contract 20-30% of the minimum allowance will be automated so Gen AI, Gen AI, London is about cutting jobs, which is well for inflation and serious study stagnation. It's not cause of celebration, the part is hypothetical, and it's about if stagnation comes after that. It's wrong during 19 numbers shows like so. Americans consumer the 100% on all the wage gains. Pace inflation, reducing inflation rate. More companies spend resales up to 1% per 2% year over year. Productivity high now, Purdue 24. Labor productivity growth in 20 year decline 2% growth nearly matches last surge and second stagnation is harmless and globally inevitable relative probably so then is it something of its fall and fertility has significantly high as even policy just took a job to buy extended college for education works and so as a consequence of success for tech one theory class system is very hard to after so slippery no key to testing and excuse in that one because of procedural scan 100 cents and even if second stagnation is true China and Russia so then is far worse growth from 3 Chinese both have high demand opposition US is speeding towards innovation and higher growth considered overall China's economy falters the thesis is wrong outright in column 23 US also increasing capital and no major increasing capital ratio rate 6% increasing capital because of both sides of growth rate is in rate US national in that saving rate dropped to 10% grossing the only issue is capital access to higher rates of distribution for progress and decline in decades one part of decades Oppenheimer says it's caused by multiple other things like the Sony ticket is globally inevitable economists 15 for office influence for years which about the pursuing critical list and consumer tempered growth was not illusory next off the United States should require that workers receive the wage for the exception a pesticide industry where it destroys body the medical system is investigators ever found the environmental decision body first the body was very simple of the around pollution is you could use pesticides extinction towards 16 free wills not results by expenditure losses of food results be water and sort of what is a threat multiplier is a complex and producing neutral so terrifying promoting also to access to competes global limit by all programs a sector not having for limits by otherwise infinite sector absence with limits and circumvent core assess space of in a economy wide living wage.
Thanks, yes.
Yes. Let me send them up.
Sure. decide, can you explain the cost push inflation? What is quote unquote, I think it was,
Cost push is when labor costs increase, companies offset those higher costs in order to maintain profit.
okay, what is quote unquote a 171% above the complete cost pass-through mean? If a $10
Well,
item
it
now, what
means
does that mean?
basically, well, so prices would increase by that much. So by pass-through, it's
What does that
referring
mean?
to
So
how
a
much
$10
they, well, it's referring to how much they pass the cost through to consumers.
Okay, do the math. How much does a $10 item cost now after 171.6 pass-through?
I don't know, you can do it. Like what?
You think it costs like above $20? It doubles the price of every single
Well,
item.
you
in
have to
grocery stores.
realize, it's not like just the initial effect of the plan. We've heard evidence that workers demand for higher wages, and that other sectors, once one sector receives a pay increase, all other sectors will get that same increase. So the threshold for the link is very small.
Okay, the Kabuchi Biscard waste hard evidence, can you explain the warrant for why fiscal miscalibration or Federal Reserve
A few
cut
things.
rates?
One, our
positive?
evidence says it causes global war because it reduces the constraints of interdependence, which is a line from your evidence as well. So
Wait,
we straight
Pause, what
transfer.
is fiscal miscalibration?
Well, our evidence says in the context of the US, it's when the Fed overreacts or misresponds to wage hikes. So our evidence
Okay,
says.
where does it say wage hikes nor the Federal Reserve in the Kabuchi Biscard evidence?
Like, are you serious? Like, you think does your impact evidence say living wage in Oppenheimer? Like, clearly not. Also, it's about, hold on, it's a long part. It's about,
No,
quote,
I'm asking where,
miscalibration by central banks, and it's about, quote, inflation and high interest rates, which we've read links to.
none of which was highlighted.
It is. Elevated inflation in many
Sure.
countries and high interest rates.
You read every op except cycle, right?
Yes.
Only hidden theory was spec living wage, no.
Yes.
Okay. The warrants for no one air theory, what are they?
One, you can just say something for like 3 seconds in the one hour and it gets blown up in the 2 hour. And two, detracts from substance.
Okay, the elections decide, Trump, what's the link?
Link is plan unpopular, perceived by voters as inflationary, and yeah, causes job loss.
So if we disprove inflation, we disprove the
No, it
elections.
says
Yeah.
voters think the plan results in job loss. Like even if the plan is materially good, they won't perceive that.
Election is in like a week, how does this flip it?
Well, I think that seems to be our point, right? The plan is like a massive October surprise that flips the election.
It's like the end of October. This is an October surprise.
Yes.
Okay.
We're still in October.
Where'd you mark the waste hard evidence?
Huh?
Did you mark the waste hard evidence?
Well, I didn't read it.
You didn't read it, okay.
Yeah, but like I said, your impact and our impact is kind of the same. You read like US
No, it's
GDP declining and Oppenheimer, yes. Oppenheimer says slow growth down.
So, any caught negates argument?
Unless you think like Jeff Atway is under
Nah,
Comcast.
doesn't.
Oh, also, when you were asking about theory, there was, I don't know if this counts, there was this thing that's like Kant ableist. You know what this is?
Sure. Okay, 1 point left. Everyone good for an order? It's framing, the utility, the advantage, states counterplan, the pick, election CA, census counterplan, advantage counterplan, inflation D.
Sorry, can you do that again? Con, util, and then advantage?
Yeah.
And then states counterplan?
Yeah.
Pick?
Yep.
And then,
The pick, election CA, census counterplan, advantage counterplan, inflation DA.
election sunsets, and then what, sorry? Oh, and then inflation?
Advantage counterplan, inflation.
Are there cards?
Yes, I think.
The census was before election?
Census was before advantage counterplan.
Oh, okay.
Everyone good?
Sorry, I'm reading it one last time, just to make sure I
The case?
heard the.
Or the con advantage? The util NC, the advantage, states counterplan, picks, elections, sunsets, advantage counterplan, inflation.
Okay.
Good?
Guess 183, the charts dropped the beta because of time skew, and it's not Blippi because he completed the 2 hours way too long. Also dropped that win rate. It's undeniable. We also don't have to specify because picks no means steals the app. They also dropped that no course card doesn't answer the new warrants. Regress extending it. You can always ask why. You value other things like pain or pleasure matter, but asking what reason consists of authority of reason that always ethics of the jurisdiction. In other words, it's not binding. The alive is a fallacy of origins. It doesn't justify the content. It's a question of reason because it concedes a validity reason that was about natural is a fallacy. Does not justify odd statements. That's our argument linguistically because it can linguistically never because you need a syllogism. You need a connecting cause in the syllogism. Pleasure is not good to rely on experiences that was above the calculating point of extinction regressively need to win full extinction, which is not possible. Evil demon. I think that I'm an agent to prove it. I'm an agent. Thus, it solves. They say now circular because 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That's false. You can know that from operating facts, but you can't know things like deduction from operating facts because it relies on operating facts. They say agency. Ethics don't have to force to say that's good. Tailoring is wrong. Empirics don't matter. Nazi doesn't say you can just not say anything. Intent is fair, well states of intention. So you are the state that was and genocide is wrong. You can do you tell genocide to solve extinction is not ableist. Everyone has the capacity to reason. Now, you don't see bar too early. 1 flows out. Everyone wants freedom. People intuitively don't lie, still treat because it's weak. If ever that happened to them. 2, instability was intuitive. Minorities were lesser. Now, being against progressives is always new. In point 3, no warrants is justify what pleasure is good. Intuition substitute for an argument proven how mathematicians have proved that 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Now, pain and pleasure. 1 collapse. Pain is conditional goods. An object having an inclination means that there needs to be an existing motivation for an object to get pleasure from, which means that pleasure is not intrinsically good. Kant solves because unconditional good. 2 is a fallacy. Blum says everyone has a reason to value yourself, but then not a reason. Why would you care about others? Pleasure. 3 hijack reasons only would prevent us from being egoists and acting on our own self pleasure. 3 prerequisitely and anything else why pleasure is good. Now expect 1 is not always the case of states never. Exceptions include negative duties. I states never actually infringe. 2 states are utilitarian, proven by psychometrics like the Constitution. 3 states have intentions of made up individuals as above. Intent foresight, yes. 1 the lack of freeze action. If it's true that I'm culpable, what people tell me that singular present male view makes it impossible. 2 is impossible. Determine the ethicality until after the action is made, which independently takes out util extinction. It's a consequence since the argument with no impact. 1 ethics define what we do while we're alive, so there's no obligation to prolong life. 2 even if it's relevant, constants degrees of wrongness are very relevant. So every freedom violation is equal. Now the advantage time frame now it drops stagnation long in the long term. The AI stuff, they drop that companies they consider that companies are irrational and not perfectly competitive, and they drop that it doesn't increase and then drop that it turns inflation. Though I warned about that. 11 is about profit in general, so it takes out inflation. They say rate is not too long, it's a lot in the long term. They yes negative she's trying to rush it. They drop that toxic competition makes it double. Also extend the con offense. It's key to prevent closure by both individuals. The states counterplan do both. Makes two ethical violations. Two get both shields and benefits between the states. US means of 50 states. LA no data. US means of 50 states. About the next off the pick. They do the counterplan like 1C competition. Means reduction of ones for labor breaking substance or Afghan law. 23 living wage use by government. Selective requirements of condition of country public body about the cardiac body. Gender breaks of bad for adjustments around the corner gap and margins like 14 debates as each sector region movie. The decisions and deficits second paramount the is infinitely greater. The next generics now that election TA Trump wins out by the poll silver. 1025 for well. Chances polls of got EC in every state votes after model silver. 1024 total loss of single votes. I'll be more competitive than our votes if he votes to say polls and Trump is already better than the likely voters by the card of likely voters. Now the sun's counterplan can't solve. It changes the counterplans to phase out. Inevitable action infinite for violation or con to the counterplan due to durability competitions voter. Can't get direct to can't deficits to check back. Later they're not benefits always faster and raises topic education. Now other cross counterplans solve plus 986 case education TAs counter check no. In fact the logic for logically screwed the advantage counterplan no solvents get new answers to our wages of the key linchpin because they need to adjust to inflation etc. and banning causes more powerful for backlash and political fuel. That was above the links to that benefit. They also IP rights don't solve wages because that was above. Now inflation one is small offset by increased growth. There's always a flaw. And overemphasized supply that storm. Two inevitable companies raise price because they increase profits. That was above. Three phase and solves. Their evidence assumes intermediate spike in wages but phase that allows a smooth transition productivity. So actually link the demand when turning it. Their studies assume normal means of growth. The secular nations tell me now this Christian read about retired Nash and Harris. That means that increasing demand only gets a sufficient level period of hyperfast growth. Otherwise, stagnation is functionally inflation since nobody can pay for it. Anyway, this calibration, they drop that low growth is a calculated this calibration in the long term because the Federal Reserve will keep cutting rates.
Okay. 4 minutes starting. No condo, reasons to drive 15 more picks, durability, and that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you read the shorts part on election? Like link is 0 to exchange money?
No.
Wait, so you just read Trump wins now?
Yep.
Which card in the 1AC do you think says phasing solves?
Shock. Last one. Okay. That's the one I sent.
The one in and now there's like there's one card, and then I'll I just sent it. The order is, okay, order is inflation, just add, the Kant advantage, and then the util NC, and then the advantage counter plan, the pesticides pick, the elections decide, the sunsets counter plan, and then the stagnation advantage.
Repeat that.
Inflation decide, Kant advantage, util NC advantage counter plan, pesticides pick, elections decide, sunsets counter plan, and then the stagnation advantage. And then let me know, does anyone?
Wait, just to make sure, inflation, con, util, advantage, kind of plan, sunsets, kind of plan, then what?
Advantage counter plan, pesticides pick,
Okay, cool.
elections decide, sunsets counter plan.
Okay, good.
Okay, good?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have the card. That weighs everything else is right, because the entirety of the tour on trial weighs 1 prerequisite drops we need to be allowed to reason. In the first place, 2 outweighs under their framework. The drop the debt is the worst possible restriction on freedom and denies the agency prevents us from making any ethical determination. The most of the text code 3, they drop that anything else is tautological because the reason why they think that freedom violation is status for the one error is because it reduces pleasure and prevents us from achieving our ends and proves that they agree with the premise of pain and suffering bad. So minimizing outweighs and you must err negative. Now inflation outweighs it does cause extinction, which answers only one or argument in response to this reduces spend spending, which realizes reduces from an expansion in geopolitical hotspots externally dropped and destabilizes the growth of populism, widespread protest and political upheavals is spread and turns solvency inflation causes money to lose its value, which means the plan is actually rate cut because workers were making less than they did before the plan. It turns stagnation inflation, wipes out the economy and high prices spread investment in tech and worker participating now. Inflation is pulling out evidence. It's reiterating since it's been declining for 4 months in a row. They've done every link so the chart does not get to go for we solve or increasing demand is good. 1, business costs. Even if they went into demand pull inflation is good, we do not even read that card, so it's only a question of cost plus inflation. The living wage increases labor costs. Companies will offset those labor higher costs by raising prices and reducing production. So a 100% increase in the minimum wage increases prices by 171% in the case. And for sure, 2 is that they drop that workers will continue bringing for higher prices, which will be below. Now, inflation is wrong. 1, even if some minor price increases are inevitable, the link outweighs. The plan is a massive increase in the minimum wage that spirals across the economy and guarantees unprecedented levels of inflation. That's ratio 2. Uniqueness is proven because inflation is increasing despite price hedging to raise complete joke. Almost 23% is worse than 79% of companies disagree. They only said 3 companies analysis does not show the inflation degree. They argues between 2022 probably. If you had inflation due to decrease in 22, how would decrease inflation? How would it? If you probably said to reduce inflation, you got problems with expectation. You run into your policy. The Fed comes in scores are just as great today as in the past. It's all conclusion, full inflation, surety, also smooth, or untrue, untrue. Also, I'm pretty sure they didn't even read this one part. And the one I say facing does not solve. They've dropped that they plan to adjust the wage price. 1, imperious workers will be needed to pay higher wages to compensate for inflation. 2, drop inflation unsolvable. Employers will be furious, so the importance for further hikes and politicians will be forced to pay economy-wide wage increases to preserve probability. The shock evidence was marked at 2 words after the one I say, but explicitly concede the plan is phase-in. That does not answer our links about worker bargaining, but they dropped their definitions of the process campaign that says that ought means should and should is meaning, which means that they are topical and you should go neck for to preserve limits because they can choose an infinite number of time to delay the app and also destroy score because all this is are based off immediate perception. The increased demand Q is wrong. They dropped in the during economy case that says that consumer spending is resilient and that it's increasing now. So stagnation coming out will also be on the case. So will stagnation equals inflation, which is obviously also untrue now. Now the Kant advantage. Concede again one theory, but it's recent correct argument on this team. The course code evidence is not wrong. It says that course code says that Kant thinks that consequences outweigh everything else, which means they just said necessarily outweighs. They say it's a question of reason because it concedes validity of reason. The point is that they conceded we use our reason in order to maximize pleasure, which means that the end point is still utilitarian. wrongness. Only you can explain the consequences of our actions. And Kant would say that something like murder is the same thing as promise breaking, which is obviously nonsense. He said connecting cause syllogism doesn't make any sense. They drop that usual solves all these because it says the desires are intrinsic and cannot be explained further. They drop the example that says that you can have a favorite food even if you cannot objectively explain why it tastes the best. They also drop that specificity outweighs on the answer of all the Calvinites, because even if these threats broadly are not true, we have to identify a specific scenario that is able to cause human extinction. They say we need to win full extinction. We did because they consider which is Bob evil demon is wrong. One, drop it links to them. How do you know you're thinking? Two, they have dropped that the burden is on them to prove the external world does not exist. Not allowed to prove that it does. Three, they drop that you chose solves because if you touch a hot stove, you would intuitively pull your hand away, which was example given. And go to the evidence. Now they say deduction is not circular because of a priori facts. The point is, you only know those a priori facts are true because someone told you things like 2 + 2 = 4. You're not just born knowing calculus, even if it is the fact of the universe. Also, they drop that induction is not circular because the Schwartz evidence says that experience and sensory experience is the only possible way for us. We can only rely on our past experience to determine ethical policies, which also answers the evil demon stuff. They say expediency is wrong. We're not really going for any of these, but they drop promise breaking, which means that the classes are our framework and only our framework can provide a mechanism to decide the brand. Now the usual NC pleasure and pain are intrinsically available. The legal evidence says it is what motivates all action independently. They've dropped Schwartz evidence, which was considered above. They've dropped that extinction that you should reject a priori reasoning because we can only determine things from ethical determinations. They also dropped no intent for say distinction for states, even if it's probably true for individuals. The Enoch evidence says that states have no autonomous lives, interests, or pursuits which means necessarily outweighs. They've also dropped the Nelson evidence that says a phenomenal intuition is the only reliable process for police. Otherwise, they would need to win that if you burn your hand, you don't know that you're actually in pain, which is nonsense. Now, the first one about somebody being intuitive, pain and pleasure are valuable, and we straight turn intuition because our intuition is to maximize pleasure, which means that we're born with it, or whatever they say, pain and pleasure collapses. It certainly is not, because the point is that you would need to be able to be alive to reason in the first place. It's saying there needs to be a motivation that does not have any answer, and they drop the death that weighs in a column, which means it's irrelevant. They say aspect is not all the case because of negative duty. It's not really going for aspect proper, just that intent force that if you choose to omit, it's insulting act, and we extended our stuff for why it's true above. They say Constitution proves that's obviously wrong because even if a few years ago then that was the case, now policymakers decide policies by evaluating what would be more beneficial for things like the economy. No, yes, intent force distinction had no warrant. They say freeze action. They dropped 1. The dissent disproves it because we've discovered an accidental death that would cause decision before 4 happened. 2. They dropped that we'd stop calculating consequences at the point of distinction. They say we can't determine ethicality until after it's obviously disproven. But the dissents, which would basically drop, they say extinction does not way because freedom violations are bad. The reason why freedom violations are bad is because it precludes us from achieving the ends that we want to achieve, and they draw that death is the ultimate restriction on that, which means that necessarily it weighs now. Not going to any of the pages specifically, there was no straight turn on elections. You can see Trump wins out and everything else is a recent trick argument. Now the same nation made it dropped. They cannot solve it. It's driven by reduced fertility, increased efficiency, and expanded access jobs and education, which are all good and novel. They've also dropped the economist evidence says it's growth. It's that it's globally inevitable. Also dropped China's Russian food, and as far as it does apply, because it means that even if growth is slow, it does not matter. The wrong evidence is China said levels in productivity of soda are quote unprecedented. They dropped and the slow results automation that has an evidence the U.S. is already adopting it, and to drop it takes too long to be able to solve the impacts for inflation. They've also shown the Purdue evidence is from 2024 that says that labor productivity has increased and it's matching 2.7% growth, which is the highest it's ever been. They've also dropped all the arguments and recutting from Oppenheimer that says that their authors think that aging populations and technology means the claim cannot reverse it, which means there's only a risk that it is that.
Yeah, I was looking at your pairings. You have so yeah. I'm actually mad that I got a buy yesterday because I won an actual win, not just a buy win.
I know. Honestly, I feel like not as bad as I did.
sunsets Kant, stagnation advantage, or sunsets Kant, sunsets wherever you flood 1AR theory, like at the top of the 1AR, Kant, util page, and then stagnation advantage, inflation descent. Good?
Strength of the link is 100. They dropped every justification where sunsets counterplans are bad because there's no literature writing about a 20-year later sunset or a 100-year later sunset. So you know it's a bad counterplan. They also dropped the other cross counterplans. So also you know the strength of the counterplans 100. They also dropped the sector picks are a voter issue and they violate because they have choose the sector of a specific pesticide because there's no literature against it and they steal all of the affirmative. Now, to granting us 1AR theory was a mistake. Saying drop the argument without a warrant was a mistake because they dropped the warrant for drop the debater. They also dropped the warrant. And the 2.5 for why we get 1AR theory is because the 1AR needs to rectify its skew because the 1AR loses too much, and they also dropped the time skew argument about how us reading theory skews the 1AR time, so we need to rectify that by getting a ballot because no other way is fair. No other way is fair. You should frame this with the fact that they dropped that affirming is much harder. They dropped that the numbers don't lie. The shot evidence says that they win over 50% of rounds, so you know that you should be heavily negative affirmative on this argument. They did not give a warrant for drop the argument. So even if you think that the 1AR argument was a little bit blimpy, the 2.5 had 0 warrant, so it's a 0 warrant versus some warrant. They also dropped that last minute of the 1AC. I said that 1AR theory was dropped the debater, so the threshold for a link extension was 0, considering the 1AC did, and I said it. Come on. Tuna dropped regress. You can always ask why. Do you want to care about things like pain and pleasure? That's not binding. Binding is outweighs. Ethics must be determined how we do while we are alive. That was above. If you cannot determine if you cannot determine things based on unconditional worth, then it's not ethical. You can always ask why. You ask for reason, etc. That requires a justification, but you can't ask for the pain and pleasure, but that requires a justification. You cannot ask why you do reason because that concedes the validity of reason itself, which means that ethics must be a priori. You cannot rely on empirical facts because it must only rely on practical reason because that is the only thing that can be justified. Now they say course card. This is a misreading of our evidence. It does not answer any of the warrants, but they are very good at extending taglines, but not warrants. They say degrees of good. This is wrong. Degrees of wrongness don't matter. That was on extinction outweighs. They say util solves all. They say util solves all of it. This is a warrant. Claim without a warrant. I'm also extending the naturalist fallacy. You cannot determine what is good based on what is because they dropped that there is they dropped the Papano evidence that says that it requires an odd statement to determine is statement. However, things like pain and pleasure is good, or things like pain and pleasure is does not determine odd just because it's motivating does not mean that it ought to be the case that we follow those. For example, I can put my hand on the stove and leave it there to test my will, or I can do things like quit addictions, etc., which are all examples of that, but they do not generate odd statements. While only practical reason solves it, they also drop that we solve property, that we solve for each agent's violations via giving them the power not to be coerced. They say specificity outweighs. It's not true. We are also specific. Evil demon does not. We're not going for this, but it does not apply to us because I think therefore I am. Thus, I'm an agent. They say they only know operating facts. They say this is wrong concepts that you can know these without any experience, which is our argument. They say promise breaking. This was the one in CN had no implication. They say now they say pain and pleasure nagel. This relies on the naturalistic fallacy where they determine what ought based on what is, but they have no connecting syllogism. That was in the 1AR. They no 10-4 distinction doesn't matter because they dropped that extinction outweighs. They dropped that there's no degrees of wrongness, which means that they have to win 100% risk of extinction, which they are not winning, while we are winning because uniqueness is inherently probabilistic, while scenarios like Kant are not based on risk.
Is it